I can at least understand Baker Mayfield going number one. But Denzel Ward makes me think that the Cleveland Browns are still the Cleveland Browns. They're still browning around. John Dorsey, a well-respected guy in the NFL. He doesn't care what I think. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He's going to do what he wants to do. Here's why I can get behind Baker Mayfield. All right, so the 4 quarterbacks in this class, I don't think a lot of separation between them. I don't hate Baker Mayfield. And a comparison that Brennan Albert made with Baker was Jeff Garcia. And I do see that Jeff Garcia in him, a fiery competitor, smaller guy that can ad-lib and make some plays. I think Baker has a stronger arm than people think. He creates windows, throwing windows, by how he can maneuver in the pocket, a little bit like Drew Brees does. But taking Baker at 1, man, a lot of balls, especially for a new regime there in Cleveland, Ohio. But Denzel Ward at number 4, I'm scratching my head a little bit. Because to me, there was a pretty clear-cut top 3. You had Saquon Barkley, Quentin Nelson, and Bradley Chubb. You couldn't have lost with any of those guys. And they go way off the board, and they go Denzel Ward. Obviously, homegrown kid. I get that they need a cornerback. But, man, to pass on Bradley Chubb in that spot, you would have paired him with Myles Garrett. That's a pretty fearsome twosome. And that Browns defense is not as bad as you think it is. They have some pieces there. Emmanuel Ogbah, Carl Nassib. Their front 7 is getting there. And if you would have added Bradley Chubb to that mix, we've seen teams that have won Super Bowls using this model. You look at the Broncos, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. The Eagles this past season, the way that they get pressure on quarterbacks, that would have been the way to go. Bradley Chubb, that was a no-brainer. And he passed on him for Denzel Ward. Now, Ward, I think he's a solid cornerback. He's my number 1 cornerback in this draft. But Bradley Chubb with Myles Garrett, to me, that's way too tantalizing to pass up. All right, so let's kind of run down the other picks. Number 2, it's Saquon Barkley. So they don't draft quarterback. I would have gone quarterback if I'm the Giants, but they clearly either, 1, weren't that high on any of these quarterbacks, or 2, they're very, very high on Davis Webb, which appears to be the case. And maybe they think he could fill in once Eli Manning retires. I mean, I don't hate the Saquon Barkley pick from their perspective. I don't hate it, because I think he's the best player in his class, and I think he's that once-in-a-generation type talent at running back. His jump cutting ability, his lateral cut ability, what he can do lined out wide, what he can do coming out of the backfield, I think he's got some Marshall Faulk in him. And I think he's a difference maker, obviously. And you have him and Odell Beckham. That's a dangerous duo there. 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. So we'll see. It's a really, really bad offensive line. So Barkley is a guy that can create yards for himself by obviously what I just talked about, the jump cutting ability, his juking and what he can do. He's a guy, okay, the knock on him is can he run between the tackles consistently? Doesn't mean he can't do it, but can he do it consistently? He's a guy that always looks for the extra yard or the big play, I mean. And he dances around the backfield, little Barry Sanders-like, right? So that's the knock on Barkley, but I think he's the best player in this draft. And I'm not going to hate the Giants taking him at number 2. The argument against it is, when are you going to pick in the top 5 again? Maybe you should have gotten your quarterback of the future to replace Eli Manning. Number 3, the Jets. The Jets. The trade looks like a steal now, because they most likely, I'm going to guess, that they got their number 1 guy. I'm going to guess that Baker Mayfield was not their number 1 and that Sam Darnold was the top guy on their board at quarterback. So you go from taking potentially the number 3 guy on your board to the number 1 guy. And that, in their minds, was Sam Darnold. I'm guessing that Baker Mayfield was not their number 1. Baker Mayfield being picked at number 1, a surprise to all of us. We heard the murmurs during the day today, and then it actually became reality tonight. So Darnold goes at number 3. I would say he's probably the most accurate quarterback in this class in terms of in the pocket and on the move. He's got a little bit more athleticism than you might think. So he's a guy that can extend it a little bit. I mean, he's not the most athletic quarterback in the world, but he's athletic enough to step up in the pocket, make throws, or roll outside the pocket and make throws on the run. Probably the most accurate quarterback on the move in this class. So the Jets, I mean, it's looking like a steal, that decision that they made a couple weeks ago. And then at number 5, Denver, they go get Bradley Chubb. You know, there was talks about maybe they would trade back, but once they saw Chubb on the board, well, you're not passing on him. And you can now pair him with Von Miller. There's your replacement for DeMarcus Ware. So Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, that's pretty much how they won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Peyton Manning in his last season didn't really provide, the Peyton Manning type numbers, obviously, that he normally provided. It was that defense that won a Super Bowl, that the back end of it with the secondary and obviously the front 7, you had that dynamic duo of Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware pressuring quarterbacks consistently. So Denver, I mean, that's awesome for them that they can get a guy like Bradley Chubb at number 5. And then the Jets, too, big winners for them. I don't hate the Giants for taking Barkley, but Cleveland, I'm still scratching my head a little bit. I got respect for John Dorsey, but, man, 2 shockers at 1 and 4. 28 different starting quarterbacks since 1999, 10 straight losing seasons, 1 win in their last 35 games. Are things actually changing in Cleveland? Are they? I guess we'll find out in a couple years. That's my thoughts on the top 5. I'm Adrian Fedku. I'm out. Peace.